Tom, a seasoned hiker, had heard the stories about the haunted woods, but he brushed them off as local superstition. He had always been a skeptic, someone who believed in the tangible and the real. Ghost stories and tales of haunted forests were for campfires and children, not for someone like him who had spent countless nights under the stars, navigating the wilderness with nothing but a map and his instincts. He loved solitude in nature, and the idea of a remote trail leading deep into the forest excited him. The deeper he could go, the better. It was in these moments of isolation that he felt most alive, most connected to the world around him. The forest was his sanctuary, a place where he could escape the noise and chaos of everyday life. The trees were tall and thin, their tops swaying gently in the breeze. They stood like silent sentinels guarding the secrets of the forest. The canopy above was thick, allowing only slivers of sunlight to pierce through, casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. The air smelled crisp and clean, and pine needles crunched beneath his boots as he made his way through the woods. Each step he took felt purposeful, a rhythmic crunch that echoed in the stillness. The scent of pine was invigorating, a reminder of the purity of nature. But as he ventured deeper, something felt off. It was a subtle shift, a change in the atmosphere that he couldn't quite put his finger on. The forest, which had always felt welcoming, now seemed to close in around him, the trees leaning in as if to whisper secrets he wasn't meant to hear. The sun, which had been bright in the sky, was quickly sinking below the horizon, and a cold breeze began to stir. The temperature dropped noticeably, and Tom pulled his jacket tighter around him. The golden hues of sunset gave way to the deep blues and purples of twilight, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. The shadows grew longer, stretching like dark fingers across the trail. They seemed to move with a life of their own, reaching out to grasp at him as he passed. The once familiar path now felt foreign, each step taking him further into the unknown. Tom stopped for a moment to catch his breath, but as he did, he heard something, faint but unmistakable. It was a sound that didn't belong, a disruption in the natural symphony of the forest. His heart began to race, a primal instinct warning him of danger. A distant echo of footsteps. They were slow and deliberate, matching his own pace. It was as if someone or something was mirroring his movements, staying just out of sight. Turning around, Tom saw no one, but the sound continued. The forest was empty, yet the footsteps persisted, growing louder with each passing moment. He felt a chill run down his spine, a sense of being watched. Slow, deliberate footsteps following his own. They seemed to echo in the silence, a haunting reminder that he was not alone. The forest, once a place of solace, now felt like a trap, each step taking him deeper into its clutches. The wind picked up, carrying with it a faint whisper, unintelligible but undeniably there. It was as if the forest itself was trying to communicate, to warn him of the danger that lay ahead. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, filling his mind with a sense of dread. The trees creaked ominously, and the air took on a strange, metallic scent. It was a smell that didn't belong, a sharp contrast to the fresh pine he had inhaled earlier. The forest seemed to be changing, morphing into something darker, more sinister. He picked up his pace, glancing over his shoulder. The feeling of being watched was overwhelming, a constant pressure that made his skin crawl. He could feel eyes on him, unseen but ever present, tracking his every move. The trail ahead twisted in ways it hadn't before. It was as if the forest was alive, shifting and changing to confuse him, to keep him from finding his way out. The path that had once been clear was now a labyrinth of shadows and darkness. The trees seemed to shift, their shadows dancing in the fading light. They moved with a life of their own, creating shapes and forms that played tricks on his mind. He could see Figures in the darkness, fleeting glimpses of something just beyond his vision. Every sound now felt amplified. The rustling leaves, the snapping of twigs, and that echoing set of footsteps, which grew louder with every step he took. The forest was alive with noise, a cacophony that filled his ears and drowned out his thoughts. Soon, it wasn't just footsteps. There were other sounds, strange and unsettling. The forest seemed to be filled with whispers and murmurs, voices that spoke in a language he couldn't understand. Something was breathing, heavy, labored breaths that grew closer. The sound of something massive moving through the underbrush. It was a sound that sent a jolt of fear through him, a reminder that he was not alone in the darkness. A low growl rumbled from the darkness, and Tom broke into a run, his heart pounding in his chest. The sound was primal, a warning that he was in the territory of something dangerous. He didn't know what it was, but he knew he had to get away. Branches whipped against his face, the air now filled with the rank smell of decay. It was a stench that made him gag, a reminder of death and rot. The forest was no longer a place of life, but a graveyard of forgotten things. He could hear it behind him, large, panting and relentless. The creature was close, too close. He could feel its presence, a dark shadow that loomed over him, ready to strike. His legs burned as he sprinted, not knowing where he was going, only that he had to escape. The forest was a maze, each turn leading him deeper into its depths. He could hear the creature gaining on him, its footsteps heavy and unyielding. Just when he thought he couldn't run anymore, the trees thinned, and he stumbled out into the open. The sudden change was disorienting, the bright light of the clearing a stark contrast to the darkness he had just escaped. Gasping for breath, he collapsed on the grass, his heart racing. The adrenaline coursed through his veins, a reminder of the danger he had just faced. He looked back at the forest, half expecting to see the creature emerge from the shadows. The woods behind him were still silent, but the faint echo of that growl lingered in the air. It was a reminder that the forest was not as empty as it seemed, that there were things lurking in the darkness, waiting for their next victim. Have you ever found yourself hopelessly lost in the woods? The feeling of disorientation, the sense that you're being watched, the realization that you might never find your way out. It's a fear that many have faced, but few have lived to tell the tale. Beware, stay vigilant, because there are terrifying creatures in the woods that few have ever seen and lived to talk about. They are the stuff of nightmares, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe and follow us for more. We have many more tales of terror and suspense, stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Join us on TikTok and YouTube for more bone-chilling chronicles. If you dare,